Yes, I am wearing a Snuggie. Just couldn't do it. It felt too disrespectful. Hey everybody, it's Amy with Ask a Christian, and as you can see, I am recording from a little different place today. This is actually my childhood room in my parents' house in Greenbrier, Arkansas. Today I want to take a deviation from the series on hell and hellfire that we've been doing, because over the holidays I saw a question on my friend Jessica P's Facebook page, and I want to address it. The question was Jesus of Nazareth the product of rape? Some Christians who might be watching this might be thinking, come on, give it a break. This is obviously not what's going on. But I don't think it's that obvious. I think it's a worthwhile question, because what we're really asking is, what is the character of God? What or who is this Christian God, and would he ever force himself on somebody? I'm not going to be one of those Christians who sugarcoats things and says everything looks fine, there's nothing to worry about here. There are some things in the Bible that look very cringy, especially based on first look by people who don't understand historical context, they don't understand previous patterns that God has established, and they don't finish reading the text. They don't read it in context. Now, if you haven't read before, or it's been a long time since you've read Luke chapter 1, I would just ask that you would go do that just now so we could be on the same page. I'm going to quote from it, but I want you to have the context. Okay, most of the arguments by those who think that Mary may have been raped by God center around her ability to give consent. Although the Bible does record her words in verse 37 saying, "Let it be done unto me according to your word," some of these critics say that Mary was in fact too young to even give consent. So how old was Mary? You know, the truth is, we don't actually know. The Bible doesn't say, but it would have been traditional or customary for Hebrew women to be given away, to be betrothed between the ages of 12 and 14. Honestly, I would be more concerned about this if it wasn't culturally appropriate or historically appropriate. According to our favorite scholarly source, Wikipedia, it says that a nation's consent laws are usually determined by their culture, and the worldwide average is about 16. We've got a little higher, other countries have a lot lower. 13 and 14 is not uncommon. I don't think age is the biggest problem here, because Mary was of marriageable age. She was already planning on getting married and starting a family in the near future. So I think the age argument is not the one that would concern me the most. So the second argument that critics propose carries a little bit more weight with me, and that is the argument that Mary could not have truly had the power to consent because she was in fear of God's retribution should she say no. The argument continues that Mary could not have given consent because consent to impregnation implies that there are two parties of equal standing, and how could a poor, scared teenage girl ever consent to carrying the baby of an omnipotent God the Father? Now, after Gabriel greets Mary, verse 29 records that she was wondering, she was pondering what kind of salutation this was. Her initial reaction to the angel showing up doesn't seem to be fear, because she keeps having a measured conversation. Now, to be fair to the argument, it does record that the angel Gabriel says to her, "Mary, do not fear, because you found favor with God." Now, he could be saying this in response to her initial fear, but he could also be saying this to prep her for what's coming. Don't be afraid, don't freak out. You're about to be the person chosen to bear the Messiah. Now, I just want to give you a couple other things to consider, which have been things that have made me feel comfortable with not thinking that this is a rape situation. I think one of the strongest arguments against this being a rape case is how Mary is so excited to be the one chosen to bear the Christ child. When Mary sees her cousin Elizabeth later in the chapter, she goes into something, it's a very famous song. It's called the Magnificat, because it is magnifying the Lord for putting her in this situation. It says, "For he has regard for the humble state of his bondslave," something she called herself earlier. "For behold, from this time on, all generations will count me blessed." It sounds like she is excited and expectant with this blessing. This leads me into my last point, which is how much Hebrew women desired the honor to be the one to carry the Messiah. In his article, The Promised Child, Jewish author Ephraim Goldstein says this about expectant mothers. It was the hope of every Jewish mother that her child might be the key to Israel's future. With the pain of labor came the comforting thought, maybe my child will fulfill God's promise to the nation. Maybe my boy will be the Messiah. In summary, this is a great question to ask about the character of God. But if you read the story as it is, if you open it up and read with a little bit of historical context and you read it in the chapter's context, I don't think you'll get a sense that Mary was raped. All right, that's all for today. Thank you for joining me. If you have more questions or you have other insights into this topic, I'd love to hear them. Feel free to contact me in any of the methods mentioned below, and I'll see you again very soon. As always, and especially at this time of year, I'm wishing you joy and peace for your journey.